Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fighting for the Truth. Here at Fighting for the Truth, we buy the truth and we sell it not. See, you cannot sell the truth, you got to give it away. Why? Because it's the truth. Listen, it is very important that we discuss this very brief. Not going to take much time, but we have to go through some things. As you know, in the last episode, talked about Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, along with his wife Cecilia Flores, being captured by the Trump administration. You heard me say that I was right about it. I called it. I called it back in November. I'm here again to say that I called it once again. October the 26th, I released an episode titled "Say No to Socialist Zohran Mamdani, New York. Don't do it." Okay. As a matter of fact, if I could be exact with you on that title, the title went a little something like this: Socialism never works. New Yorkers, say no to Zohran Mamdani. If you recall that, that's what I spoke about. I'm here today to tell you that I'm back again to tell you that it is off to a start exactly where I told you it would start off at, and many others told you under the Zohran Mamdani administration as he builds his team and announces his team. He is doing it. He is doing it. He is doing what he said he was going to do. And I told you that the agenda will be based upon his Muslim brothers and sisters getting into office. And I want to be clear to throw a disclaimer out here that I am not going against Muslims. I am not talking negatively about Muslims. I will show you a clip from the episode I told you about in October where it was debuted. I spoke about these things. I'm going to let you hear a little bit about what I said and bring it to today's date. Okay. But Zoran is going to continue his socialist agenda. He told you what he was going to do. And to every Gen Z that actually voted for him, you're going to see and reap the benefits of what you voted for. And they will not be good. We've told you nothing should suggest that socialism will work. It never worked. It has been proven time and time again. Socialism never works. Definitely will not work in America. We are a capitalist nation. We're built upon that. Everything in life cannot be free. That's what Zoran has said. That's what he told you he was going to do. Mark my words, as I said back in October, it's not going to happen. Of 2025, I told you this. Okay? But he has tapped a al-Qaeda terrorist supporter. And who is that? Razem Kasami or Kasim. He is the gentleman who represented, okay, an al-Qaeda terrorist. And I want to make sure I get the gentleman's name right. I don't want to misspeak on this one because I want to be accurate when I bring this up to you. Okay. It's very important. Ahmed Al Darby. He supports him. Obviously, he was his defense attorney on allegations of terrorism under the Al Qaeda terrorist organization. Razem Kasim has been tapped to be one of Mamdani's lawyers. He will oversee, which I think this is very horrible. I think this is very horrible. He will oversee the um, defense, and his powers will be to be the chief counsel. Imagine that, a terrorist serving as the New York City's mayor's chief counsel, which means all policies, procedures, everything that will align with that city will go through Kasim, man who is tied to a Al Qaeda terrorist member who is a Muslim, which we know in the Islamic religion, their religion teaches them to hate, kill, and destroy. We saw that on 9/11. So I don't have to give you a history brief there. But this is what Mamdani is doing, and many more things he's to do. But Kasim is going to be his chief counsel. Now, keep in mind, he also served under the Biden administration, okay? Matter of fact, his exact title under the Biden administration was just this. He was the top advisor for the immigration on the White House Domestic Council. Imagine that. They coined this gentleman, believe it or not, to be the social justice attorney. That's what he self-proclaims himself to be, Mr. Kasim. Now, today's title is packed with a lot of things, and I want to make sure that you understand we're going to be talking about all of it. And I'm going to move very swiftly into it. Mamdani taps an al-Qaeda terrorist supporter. But we're not stopping there. We're going to talk about Somali fraud in Minnesota. And then we're going to end by talking about the denial of room and board by a hotel that is affiliated with a Hilton hotel. Okay. They denied the Department of Homeland ICE agents. As you know, they're in Minnesota currently. And once they use their particular emails, their government emails, and the Hilton Hotel found this out, and I'll mostly probably say we don't really know who is behind it, but maybe some clerks or desk attendants, a manager, general manager. We don't know all of that, but we do know that it was an independent company within Hilton that I'm sure Hilton bought this hotel and they went under the name of Hilton. It was at a Hampton Inns Suites. They denied room and board. Okay, we're going to discuss that, but I want to show you exactly what I said back in October the 26th, 2025. I want you to listen to what I said about Zohran Mamdani tapping in these Muslims. And again, I am not against Muslims. I have a lot of colleagues who are Muslims, okay, great people. I'm talking about the type of Muslims he's choosing to enter his administration, people who have a long past of dealings with people who are terrorists. It's just what it is. But listen to this. There is such a thing, believe it or not, that is called Islamic socialism. Now, Zohran is a Muslim. You notice I took a big pause there. And I want to be very clear about that. I'm not making fun of his religion, neither am I saying that he's a bad person because of his religion. I am a Christian and I believe in God Almighty, believe that Jesus was sent on earth. He came, he healed, he redeemed the world, died for the sufferings, and he died for the sins of humanity. People like you and I hung him on the cross. They brutally beat him, spit upon him, did all those things. He died and put him in a tomb, and they covered him and buried him. And guess what? He got out of the tomb, left the grave. He ascended up to his Father, and he's there looking down now. That's what I believe in. Don't believe in Muhammad. Don't believe in Allah. Not into that. Zohran is, though. Zohran is. He is a Muslim. Now, there is, and again, by the way, I got to add this before I forget. Zohran has stated, it's on record, that he does not love America, does not like America. He does wish harm upon America in whatever way that looks like to him. I don't know. Can't put words in his mouth. But for a man who doesn't love America and love what we stand for and love what has made him great, like my hat, don't know why he would be here in America, but he is here. And so there is a thing called Islamic socialism. Now, Antoine, what is that? What is that? It is a more of a spiritual form of socialism. Muslim socialists believe that the teachings of the Quran and Muhammad are not only compatible, okay, did you hear what I said? With but actively promoting the principles of equality and public ownership, drawing inspiration from the early Medina welfare state that was established. Okay, that is what Islamic socialism is. You want to learn more about it, look it up. So you see where I'm headed with this? Do you see where I'm headed with this? That's why I said in the title, New Yorkers, don't vote for this socialist Zohran Mamdani as your next mayor. Don't do it. I'm laying out facts. Listen here. Okay, I'm giving it to you. Now, according to Zohran's campaign website, he has fought for the working class in and out of the legislature, allegedly. He believes in hunger striking. He also did some things alongside the taxi drivers. He's been pushing them very hard. Why is that? Because 99% of Muslims, if you never rode a New York yellow taxi cab, they're all made up of Muslims, whether they're African Muslims, Arabic Muslims, could be even white Muslims. Now, this is the part I'm really getting to the root of when I'm speaking about what he wants to do with the Islamic Brotherhood. This is what I'm really trying to capture here. I want everybody to be aware of what I'm saying. I am 100% telling you that he wants to capture the Islamic Brotherhood to bring them into the fold, to expand his priorities, his beliefs, and his agenda on New York City. Okay, there is a large presence of Muslims in New York. We get it. And you hear me talking about it, taxi drivers, Uber drivers, things of that nature, because being immigrants into this country, most of them do not have the means to actually have American, well, I won't say American jobs. Let me rephrase that. Don't have the means to maybe have a better, well paying job. And so they settle with transportation because it is one of the most easiest forms of getting a job when you're entering America. That is why the immigration um, percentage of people, or I should say immigrants, that you see that are in the transportation industry, Uber, Lyft, and taxis within your states and cities. So that's what I'm referring here. But he is building an agenda, he has a plan, and he is starting very early by tapping a attorney who served as the defense for Ahmed al-Dabari, who was an al-Qaeda terrorist. I've never seen a female driving a taxi. I'm sure they do exist, but it is predominantly made up of males that are immigrants. Don't know if they're legal or not, but they're immigrants, okay, of the Muslim religion. Understand that. What is Zohran? He is a Muslim. I just told you that. To achieve more than $450 million in transformative debt relief. Okay, that's according to his website. Okay, now please let me say this. Please allow me to say this. Do not misconstrue my words. Okay, have you ever been to New York? If you've never been to New York, then you don't understand what I just stated a second ago. It is definitely true. When you see people on subways, excuse me, not subways, taxis, they're driving them. When you get into a taxi, you are most likely going to get into a taxi driven by an immigrant, and they are going to be one that is Muslim. They're probably going to have their Muslim prayer on. I've been in taxis where they actually are listening to their prayer and they're doing all kinds of things, or maybe their mosque, I don't know, or to whatever it is that they do at the mosque. I don't want to call it a sermon, but maybe a message. I've been in vehicles, I've been in taxis and heard them listening to their devotion. So it is obviously true. I've even spoken to them and they give me a little history about themselves, but it is true. I'm not making it up. It is true. It is true. Most taxi drivers in New York are male. Probably all are male. And guess what? They're 99% of immigrant status. And they're also Muslim. Not making it up, not being funny at all. At all. Most times they don't speak great English or enough for us to communicate when you are drive or riding with these folks. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But I'm just laying out the facts for you. I'm giving you what I know to be true. Okay. Now I gotta call it like it is. That's the only way I could do it. I got to call it like it is. Now, allegedly, Zohran has won over $100 million in state budget to increase. Excuse me, is that what I want to say there? He has won over $100 million that went towards the taxi drivers in New York. Okay, and I would go as to say these lawsuits were um, filed due to Uber and Lyft. We heard about that, but when Uber and Lyft became very popular, that they were taking the jobs from New York taxi drivers. That was a big deal. And so Zoran, you heard about this, didn't really know who he was at the time, but allegedly he was the one that helped push this huge civil battle and allegedly won $100 million from the city of New York, okay, due to taxi drivers. And you can look more into that, why that happened, but he tops his record on that. And as while he was while he is still in the state legislature, he has been able to help increase the subway service and have a successful fare-free bus pilot and organizing New Yorkers to defeat a proposed dirty power plant. Keep in mind that he did this while being an attorney, because at the end of the day, we all know this, most legislators are in the field of attorney or law. So he's done this, he's touting this, and this thrives into his record. And of course, this is as assemblyman. But what you did not notice or hear him say, that he was going to make subways safe or introducing legislation to increase the funding for New York City Police Department to have more police officers patrolling the subways. You didn't hear him say that. You did hear him say that he won $100 million. Okay. And he plans on making what subway services successful, making it free, bus rides free, so that everybody has free. You're gonna hear that free a lot. Why? Because socialism suggests that everything should be free. Why is it free? Because we're taking from the rich and we're giving to what? The working class, middle class. Some consider it the lower class. However you look at it. Now, Zoran is a progressive in his agenda, very progressive in his agenda. He wants to impose these things upon New York, whether you may deem them to be great. I think they're going to be horrible, but this is what he wants to do. This guy is known as a radical. He is known as a communist, so he's radical and he's a communist. He is known as a radicalist and he is known as a communist, okay? By not only myself, but the Republicans on the right side that's on the team. And let me say this, at the end of the day, you get the picture, you get what I'm trying to accomplish here, and you also understand where I'm coming from. I am coming from a place of concern, coming from a place of importance, and I'm coming from a place of information. Now, why do you say that? Because my job as a talking head, a podcaster, is to give you the information that you need to maybe to help your standpoint, your talking points, or to give you information so that you can go back and research and find out more on. Now, I told you that Zoran is, he even claimed it, he even states that he is a socialist. Matter of fact, the media has coined him to be the first to ever New York mayor who is a socialist, okay? A democratic socialist. At the end of the day, I don't even know we have to put Democrat on it because we know that Republicans are not socialists. So we wouldn't say Republican socialists. It does not exist. We know that this mindset is far and apart from the and associated with the Democrat Party. But either way, you see what I'm saying here. We have chosen a guy who does not recognize Christianity as the supreme religion in America. We have chosen a guy who does not enjoy and respect the American people. We've chosen a guy whose agenda is not hidden, but is right there in the open, that he wants to put people in place, put people in the office that actually benefits himself. And we know this, okay? We already know this to be true, but yet we sit here and we say, well, look, I wonder what is to come of this. You know, let's sit back and watch how he's going to play out his first 100 days in office. Well, we already see where he's going with these 100 days in office and then years in office. We see where he's headed. He's setting up his base, meaning his administration, people that maybe not look like him all the way, but who has his same views, ideas, and religion. Okay, which is an extreme religion. We saw what he's doing with the legal system, and you better believe what he's putting these key people in office in the legal side because he is getting ready to do some things that he think the government will not be able to step in and stop. But we're going to stop everything that he does. We've said it. Trump said it. We will stop funding to that city if need be, if he gets in and performs and conducts radical ideas that do not make New York better and greater and America ultimately better and greater. We're going to block it and stop it. So he's setting up this team so that when it happens, he can be able to stop what we're wanting to stop him from doing. And that is pushing socialism, tearing down the walls, and doing things that we should not do. Okay. That is what Mamdani is doing. Not only that, he has, and I want to stand corrected, I mistakenly added social justice warrior, okay, or um, to Kasim, okay, but that really should actually, and I'm speaking about Razim Kasim, okay, the attorney I spoke about who represented Ahmed Darby. He's actually not considered to be the social justice attorney. It is actually the next guy I'm going to talk about, and that is Stephen Banks. Now, Stephen Banks appears to be a white American, and I'm not just picking on race, but we're making it and we're establishing a point. But he has chosen Stephen Banks for a purpose and a reason. Now, understand this: Stephen Banks actually worked for a firm recently before he was tapped as the member of the legal staff. Okay, where he worked for Paul Weiss firm. Now he got upset because that firm made a deal with President Trump to invest $40 million or donate $40 million to pro bono ideas that President Trump administration has. And he didn't like that. So he resigned. That obviously tells us where he stands as it is supporting President Trump. And he has his own views. He has his own opinions, and he's entitled not to like President Trump. That is not what I'm saying. But he was so upset at this firm from doing such a thing that he resigned. Do you see where I'm headed with it? But this is the same guy that was tapped and has been tapped by Zohran Mamdani. And he's also going to be serving in the legal team. All right. His exact title, if I should be able to find it, he is going to oversee the Corporation Council. Okay. So he will be the city's attorney dealing with corporations. Do you see where we're going? So Mamdani is obviously setting an agenda up, which is again extremely obvious because he told us, but he's putting these mechanisms and he's putting these safeguards, if I should call them though, that in place so that he can continue his agenda. Now, the fact of the matter is this: he's aligning people that do not like America and do not like the current administration. When you have those two things mixed in, number one, you're not on the same page as we are as Americans because you don't like the administration, and I know many don't like Trump administration that are U.S. citizen born here in America. But what I'm saying is, when you mix those two together, a person who supports terrorism that ultimately killed thousands of people here in our country back on 9/11, September 2001, and you put him in a position to be the chief counsel over the largest city in America, and then you place another counsel an attorney in charge of corporations who ultimately does not like President Trump administration. You mesh those two together, and there's some other people that he's tapped to serve counsel. I think a lady by the name of Helen, which I really didn't dive much into her record or her accolades or the lack thereof. But he's setting people in his administration who obviously is 100% against the Trump administration. And they're going to go at war, and who ultimately pays the price? The New Yorkers. However, we told you from day one, socialism never works. Say no to Zohran Mamdani. We told you that. So we're not going to beat the horse to sleep on that. But what we will say about all that, okay, we will say that at the end of the day, you've made a decision, and now you have to live with that decision. But not only did he choose those two gentlemen that I just spoke about, Stephen Banks and Razim Kasim, he's tapped Lillian Bonsinger to serve as the New York Fire Department's commissioner, who happens to be a lesbian by her own admission, dealing with the sexual orientation, which is her prerogative. And I'm not fixated on the lesbian part of it. I'm actually fixated on the part that he has placed this woman in charge of hundreds of males. And there's some women mixed in too, but this is a predominantly male profession. To be exact, a white male profession. Really, the race has nothing to do with it, but I'm building a statement up. But he's placed her at the helm of the fire departments around that whole entire city. But here goes the bad part. She has no experience in firefighting. She served as the director of emergency management, which is not the same at all. How can you place someone over a fire department and ultimately over all the fire departments who have no experience wearing a uniform, fighting fires, okay, out on calls, understanding what the men and women will need to be successful with equipment, vehicles? How? How could you do such a thing? It happens occasionally in policing, and I disagree with that too. How can you place a chief over a police department who's never worked in law enforcement? They don't go together. They may be a good admin, and that's just on the paper form of it. But when you dive into it and you look at the fact that a person needs to have experience in things that they are overseeing so that they can have a good objective, that they can be able to relate, okay, so that they can be able to understand the men and women that they're serving or working alongside of. All these things play hand in hand. And if you don't have this in place, you're setting the leaders up for failure. But Zohran Mamdani has not stopped there. He continues to go on, okay? He continues to push his agenda. And I want to talk about a woman that he just announced on January the 2nd that he's placing, okay? And this woman is a radical. She's a socialist. She's a communist, okay? Her name is Sia Weaver. She will join his team, and they note that she has previously led Housing Justice for All in New York, which is a coalition made up of groups representing tenants and homeless New Yorkers. It is a sister organization to the New York State Tenant Bloc, and it's spelled BLOC. And that BLOC is very significant because that is tied in with Antifa, which is ultimately a mixture of people from the far left who enjoys destroying America, the beautiful. It is associated with violent protesters. It is associated with liberalism, communism, all these things are tied in together. Sia Weaver, her job will be 100% to help because she believes that the mayor's greatest strength when it comes to their authority is to be able to, economic wise, is to be able to freeze tenants' rents. And they want to do this for over 9 million New Yorkers. Want to freeze their rent. They want to hold allegedly the landlords accountable for the conditions. And I'm sure the conditions in some of these low impoverished apartments are not livable and they're not conducive. I get that. But to hold every landlord accountable who are actually doing the right things, who are making things affordable, who are trying to work with their tenants, they want to hold them accountable. They want to see them lose financially so that the people can have free rent and freeze rent for months on end, which I talked about. If you go back and watch the episode that I just played to you, we spoke about how can you make everything free and how can a city, a country sustain themselves, a state sustain themselves without taxes and revenue coming in. Okay. If you make everything free, you have no income. There's no profit margins coming in. So how are people surviving and how are you surviving as a town, city, or state? So I spoke about this. But this is one of the main tasks that Sia Weaver will work on and try to become successful in freezing tenants' rents all across New York City so that they can live a life of not paying their bills. Now, I know people fall on hard times and people need help. I am not sitting here suggesting that no one should receive help in the time of struggles and needs. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is if you make everything free and you give it out free, and there's no incentives to giving out free things, you're not giving incentives telling people to go out. You're not incentivizing people to go out and work hard. You're not preaching for them to go out and work hard and make their own. Then they just become stiff, lazy, ungrateful. And that is what they're trying to do. This is what socialism suggests. Now, I'm not going to make this entire, as we wrap up shortly, this show about totally socialism because I spoke about it. Go back and watch it. But I'm telling you what the agenda is and what he is doing. Zohran Mamdani, this is what he's doing. Sorry to say it's a little bit too late for you New Yorkers who voted for him and the ones that did not vote for him. I am praying for you and I feel sorry for you. Unfortunately, these are the things you have to deal with if you choose to stay there. But don't forget, we live in America where we have the freedom to come and go as we so choose, if you're able to make these things a reality. But the last thing I want to discuss as we begin to wrap up is today we saw that Hilton Hotels released a statement saying this. Listen, we are not responsible, okay, for what took place. It was an independent hotel that did this. They blocked these Homeland Security men and women from being able to stay at their hotels. They don't want anything to do with them. It's very sad. We come to a place where we hate people that much, and we hate the profession that they're doing. We have to understand. You have to be able to separate the two. Okay, but most people don't. They group us all in one category as it pertains to law enforcement. We're just bad, evil people. Okay, which is not what we're trying to accomplish. It is not what we're trying to do. We are trying to be a law enforcement officer who is living up to the oath, but also making sure that we live up to the job that we signed up for. Ultimately, looking out for, if you're working city, for the city citizens, state for the state, and of course the country, homeland security, you're looking out for the best interests of the country as a whole. But for them to deny room and board to these wonderful men and women, it's sad. Look past the job they're doing and look at who they are. They've been working long hours, they're traveling, they're trying to fulfill the administration's law enforcement promise agenda, and they need room and board. They need shelter. They need to be able to regroup. Okay, they need to be able to cleanse themselves. Okay, meaning through hygienes, personal hygiene. They need to be able to replenish themselves with rest, food, all these things, and that can only be accomplished if they are in a conducive living quarter. Now, I know they went somewhere and found other hotels, but the point is we cannot, as American people, deny our own people, especially a law enforcement entity who is out there doing the job that you may not agree with, but it's the job that they have to do. Okay? So let's be mindful of that. Do unto others as they do unto you. That is all I'm saying. That is all I preach here on Fighting for the Truth. But I want to dive into one more thing. We cannot leave without talking about the great work of Nick Shirley, and I call it the two-man team, and the older gentleman that has been working with him as he has been rightfully uncovering a lot of the fraud as an independent journalist. He's making leaps and bounds, but we saw this really hitting the airways back in December of 2025. Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, okay, she has, and her team, of course, with the Treasury Department, FBI, all these different other agencies within Homeland Security, they have uncovered $9 billion fraudulent and taxpayers' money that has to be reclaimed. Okay. And you saw all of the daycares, you've been watching all of the SBA fraudulent loans that went out, and now Kelly Loeffler, who oversees the Small Business Administration, is going to be blocking over 7,000 loans, rightfully so, racking up millions and millions of dollars. The fraud is out of this world. It's ridiculous, it's disgusting, and we cannot continue to allow it to happen. When you come to this country, you ought to come to this country with the mindset that you want to better yourself and you want to make this country successful by contributing, not taking, 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 taking. It's gotten to the point they went into daycares that have been opened up under the COVID-19 pandemic loans, okay, that they gave out to small businesses, okay. People were getting thousands of dollars to open up businesses, and I believe they saw a big red flag in Minnesota when there was so many daycares opening up, but they figured out that's the easiest probably business to open up and establish with a LLC or however they did it, and then reclaim the funds and report however they report, which is fraudulent, and not eventually have any children attending these daycares. Who could imagine that? Sad. Minnesotans have been defrauded. And then at the hem of it, Tim Walz talked a good game, told us the buck stops with him, but yet today in his press conference, he still blamed the Trump administration for all these things. But he got up first when he was called out a couple of weeks ago, tried to come up with this apologetic statement and say that he was very remorseful for signing off on a lot of these loans. And at the end of the day, he's the governor, so he takes full responsibility. And now, January the 6th of 2026, he backtracks to the point that he is not going to seek re-election. I put out a post on Instagram. You can go check it out on Fighting for the Truth social media on my Instagram page, where I talked about, can you imagine a two-man team with an iPhone with diving into the state records was able to uncover massive amounts of fraud, millions of dollars in frauds, and then showing up at these businesses to show us the fraud actually taking place in real time, to the fact that one daycare we saw all over the world said learning instead of learning, misspell the word, put it on the top of the building or on the side of the building, receive tons of funding, got caught, went back and changed the name when asked about it, said it was a typo, a print issue. But yet you are allegedly teaching kids and adults can't even spell the word learning. That is a problem. And partial of that problem is because they do not speak English and they do not want to learn English and they're not trying to push English. They're Somalians pushing their culture. Not against them, but we are against any person that defrauds an individual, an entity, ultimately a government. We don't like it. At the end of the day, millions of dollars, billions of dollars have went to the Somalians who have no purpose, no evidence, no background, and the ability to own these types of businesses that they opened up under the SBA loans. Every one of them should be penalized, which they're already starting to do that. Okay, they will reap the penalizations that come along with this. There are tons of fraud investigations underway by the Homeland Security, and they are going to find out. Okay, the actions, listen to this, comes after years of investigation that began with the $300 million scheme at the nonprofit organization called Feeding Our Future. Now, get this, 57 defendants in Minnesota were convicted under this company, masking themselves, taking federal dollars, feeding our future. Now, who are they referring to? The children, next generation. Took this money into COVID-19. Again, fraud scams that I've told you about doing. A lot of people during the SBA times when under the administration, when they were giving out tons of money or just sums of money. I actually had a privilege sometimes to sit on some of those and listen to some of those White House calls when they were actually meeting with people all across the country who were having failing businesses under the COVID-19 because they couldn't open their businesses. They were needing money to pay their employees. And that's really what this money was designed to do. It was not designed for you to open up a business during COVID. It was for you to be able to pay your employees, okay, because you weren't able to do it because you have no funding and profits coming in. But we saw that people were allegedly starting businesses under this fraud. And my question to anybody that did this, think about it. How could it make sense to you that you thought you were going to be able to open up a business and during COVID when people that actually own businesses and people that work for businesses and corporations were at home because they could not work? So what made you think you were going to open up a business during that time and not and then not have it uncovered and investigated later on down the line to the fact that now you have to pay this money back and many of you are facing prison time because you defrauded the government? And we all said all the time, if there's any person you don't want to mess with, and of course that person is ultimately the government. We're just using it as a phrase, Uncle Sam, excuse me. You don't want to mess with Uncle Sam, the government, at the end of the day, because the IRS is going to get what belongs to them, and sometimes they take more that probably ain't theirs. But at the end of the day, this is what has happened. Okay, and this has led to massive fraud investigations. And Secretary Kristi Noem said it best. She said this is just the beginning of frauds, and we're going to be looking at other states as well. This is just the beginning of it. They started in Minnesota because they have found so much fraud that needs to be investigated right there that they're going to continue looking into it. It's going to be more hundreds of more people, I'm sure, being indicted, okay, and then ultimately convicted after being charged. We're going to see it. There's no way around it. There's no way around this. It's just out of control. And I don't understand how we as the citizens can sit back, watch it, and say, well, that's not in my state. I'm not, I don't live in Minnesota. They can do whatever they want. Think about this. It has happened in every portion of all 50 states. It has happened, which is why the SBA is going back and they are looking with a fine-tooth comb, going over documents. So I warn everyone, each of you who has taken the federal government money in bad faith, just know this: you can run, but you cannot hide. They're coming for you. This is fighting for the truth. This is all we do. We want to continue to fight for the truth because it is our mission, it is our job. And I always need you, I always ask, I always say it, I always tell you at the end of this show, would you please do me a favor? Would you please do me a favor? Would you please do me a favor? Buy the truth and sell it not. See, let me tell you, you cannot sell the truth. It's the truth. You got to give it away. Why do we give it away? I told you at the beginning of the show. I told you at the beginning because it's the truth. But as I always say at the end of the show, we give it away because it's truth. But we know this: when you know the truth will set you free. Continue to like, share, and subscribe to Fighting for the Truth YouTube channel. And you can find us on all social media platforms. We're out there spreading the truth. But I need you also to help us increase our viewership, our subscribers on Rumble. We have made a splash into Rumble. So continue to support us. And as you support us, I will continue and we will continue to support you by giving you good content and bringing you the truth because it's the truth. Until then, God bless our country. God bless our men and women serving in blue. I'm going back to the old real talk days. And God, please bless the men and women that are serving in blue. That is our police officers, law enforcement as a whole. And God, please bless this great country that we call the United States of America. Until we meet again, until we do it again, we'll see you later.